Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Nice to see you again, back in the fish room. I'm doing some prep for the next project that's coming up on the channel. So you might have seen this in the last couple of videos or live streams. I've been talking about replacing all these fish tanks. So from here all the way down to there is now going to be one fish tank, or one fish tank system. I'll leave a link to the last video up here somewhere talking about that. Basically a big 12-foot discus tank with a couple of tanks underneath of various options. Today is about moving fish and playing musical chairs with fish tanks, which means I'm going to get wet basically. But I have some plans and some challenges, so I thought I'd talk through some of them and show you what I'm thinking of doing. So if we take these tanks first, you've got these 2 3-foot tanks up there, and then we've got the puffer tank down here and a shrimp tank. Up here, if we start with the discus tank, these are the discus that I bought a while ago that we've been growing on, that are all doing fantastic. If you look at them, great size, shape, colours coming through, really nice, really happy with all of these guys. Temporarily, because obviously these are eventually going to go in the big tank that we build, but temporarily they're going to go in here with my existing discus, and they're ready to go now. I'll show you why. Because if you take a short walk down here, in this tank I have been quarantining one of the new discus with one of the old discus. Again, I'll leave a description, I'll leave a link up here or something in the description talking about what I'm doing here, but this is essentially the sacrificial lamb technique, where you have 2 sets of discus from different sources, and rather than risking all of them because you're worried about cross-contamination or a pathogen or a parasite that one of them has that it's fine with that the other set isn't, you take one discus from each source, put them in a tank together, and as it sounds, it's the sacrificial lamb method. If anything's going to go wrong, you can treat it and your risk is limited to 2 fish rather than a whole batch of fish. Thankfully, everything here is going fine. Normally I like to give these guys kinda 2 weeks, but my experience is that if anything's going to happen, it happens in the first couple of days, and you're looking out for clamped fins and just general poor behaviour. But these guys have been absolutely fine, they're still eating. They've only been in here maybe 10 days, so I might leave these a few more days just to satisfy my own rule, but I'd be happy to move them now so they could go back in. But that's where the discus are going to go. They're going to go back in the big display tank for a few weeks. So they're going to go into this tank for a few weeks, but it should be fine because there's plenty of room in there, plenty of filtration, a good water change regime, and I'll be able to enjoy them for a while in this smaller 5-foot tank. But that gets rid of this tank. This tank here is the snakehead, who, I remember talking about this a while ago. I was worried about like a kink in its spine and the way that it looked, but it seems to have grown out of it, or it's much less pronounced. I mean, you can still see sort of a hump kind of there-ish, but it's much less pronounced, and he's looking good. The bass, again, really colouring up well. These 2 are going to go into this tank, and the Oscar's going to move. So again, lots to remember here, but that'll go in there. So that's that tank gone, that tank gone. This tank here is a shrimp tank, or a snail tank more than anything. I'm not sure if there's any shrimp still in it, to be honest. I'm just cultivating algae and snails. Snails for the puffer, so I'm just going to break that down and find one of the small tanks to put anything that's still alive in there, and then that can get done. This tank is the Fahaka puffer tank, and this is slightly more challenging because I don't have a solution for the Fahaka fish. He wants to live alone, and he wants to live in this tank, and eventually he's going to continue to live in this tank because this is going to be part of the new system, but I need it out of the way so I can build the new system. So I'm thinking about making just a little temporary stand, or even just have it on the ground and move that tank, or have a temporary home over here, up here somewhere, in a smaller tank that he can live in for a few weeks. Because like I've said in the other video about building this new system, I want it to be done in weeks, and I can move his tank very quickly, because I don't necessarily need to complete the build of the tank before I can move that tank in it, because as soon as the stand's built, that tank can go on it. So still deciding, but that whatever we do, that'll be that done, and then I can break down this entire rack, and then it's onto this one. In this tank here we've got Celestial Pearl Danios and Coolie Loaches, and they are going to move into this tank. So this tank over here is kind of my, I keep calling it my nano tank, but they're not nano fish, but it's my small fish tank. So lots of small fishies in here of various types. I mean, there are some barbs in there, but they have been fine with all the other fish that are a bit finny and a bit slower, so I'm hoping it will be okay. We'll need to be monitored to make sure that it's okay, but there's all kinds of different fish in here. It's quite heavily planted, so there's lots of places to hide. So if something is going to be a problem and not get along with something else, there should be refuge. But again, if I need to, a temporary fish tank can be spun up to hold them, but this is just going to be the small fish tank, and we'll put everything in there. Underneath here is another option, which is the rainbow fish tank. So we've got rainbow fish and cories in here, so that might be an option, especially for the Coolie Loaches. They'll like digging around here. They're both quite heavily planted tanks and doing really well, if I do say so myself. So that's an option for that tank. Here, we're not really going to be able to see them, but there's a couple of bucktooth tetras in here that I'm hoping someone is going to come and collect. Someone that had an existing group and wants a couple more to take. So that's that. There are the Discus that we talked about earlier. Here are the White Cloud Mountain minnows. We've got the Goldens and the regulars, and they're going to go upstairs into my goldfish tank. Already emptied this one. That was a temporary quarantine tank. Already emptied that one. CPDs we've talked about. Plants, I'm going to just move into another tank, or move this tank somewhere else temporarily. It's just plants, so it doesn't need heating or anything really. And then we've got the shellies. This is the shell dweller tank, and we've got a bunch of these guys doing really well. Really happy with these guys, but that tank needs to go. So I've already moved what was the Timu tank and some of the smaller fish into the small fish tank, and I'm setting this tank up now for the shellies. So I'm going to move them over now, and then that's that done. So this was the tank over here where I've got a free shelf up here, my plants that are for sale, and this tank here, which is the kind of convalescence tank for the Oscar because he was getting beaten up in Mega Tank. To show you that, Mega Tank obviously is here. This is my 8 foot by 4 foot by 4 foot, no, 8 by 4 by 3, where Brian here, the gourami, was beating up fish that are anything bigger than the silver dollars. Brian beats up. That's what we've had. So Brian's going to go into solitary confinement, which he should be fine with, and then the Oscar can go back in here. But for that to happen, stay with me now. Brian is going to go into this tank and live in this tank. Obviously the plants and stuff will come out and they'll be using the new tank, but the Discus need to move before Brian can move in there. So before I can put the Oscar from that tank in there, I need to come up with some kind of system to do that, because if you remember, this is the tank where the snakehead and the bass is going to go. Plan for the Oscar is to use this tub. So this tub is like 3 foot by 2 foot. I'm just going to drill a bunch of holes in this and use it as a floating basket. Might have to get some pool noodles or something to help it float, and then that can go in Mega Tank. The Oscar can live in it temporarily, but be protected from attack from Brian. That's my thinking anyway. So that's a bit of a last minute solution, because again, that's far too small a space for an Oscar. Yes, he's going to be in a massive tank, but it'll be confined a little bit. So if you're following any of that, there's a few changes that I want to be for as short a time as possible to minimize the disruption. So my plan for today is to get as far along as I can with the things that are fine for a while. So moving the Discus, absolutely fine. All this rack here, that should be fine. So the CPDs, something is wet. What is wet? My overhead sump has failed live on camera mid-video. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's filled up, so it's blocked somewhere. and needs some attention. Back in a minute. Don't normally catch disasters live as they're happening, but I don't quite know what has happened, so more investigation will be needed, but nothing was blocked in this, but this had filled up all the way up to there, to the point where it is overflowing from here. So down here what I've got is a selection of, these are the overflows to the sump, and this is the returns from the pump, and usually I determine how much water goes straight back into the tank and how much goes into the overhead sump by turning these. So to fix it, all I had to do was fully open these valves, and that's fine. And as you can see, the water is now draining down. It was up here and overflowing, but it's now draining down. So I'll just have to play with these to get it to a level that I'm happy with. I have just done a water change on Mega Tank, so maybe I've done something silly that I've not realised yet, but that's the first time that's ever happened. I'm still not sure why, but hey, it's fixed. We'll take it. So, as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by that leak. My plan is to break down this, or at least to get all the fish moved out of this rack today, so as that can be broken down, and then that's out the way. I have been talking to sponsors about getting some stuff for this new rack, so I'm kind of ready to start ordering a couple more things, but the more I can get achieved ahead of time to get ready, the faster this can go. So I'm kind of excited to get moving. Other than that, obviously there's storage above and below. I need to find places to put things because I've got stuff everywhere. So a lot of sorting out, none of which will make any kind of interesting videos, so I'll just film the bits where I move the fish and then go from there. Right, that is the shellies in this tank, so that tank's clear, that tank's clear, that tank's clear. Onto this tank now, so we're going to get the white clouds moved over. I'll show you them in their new tank in a second. So there we go, there's all the white clouds. It's funny how they stand out, so the golden ones versus the normal ones. 25 of each, well, maybe 23 of each. I'm sure we've lost a couple over the few weeks and months that they've been in there, but that's that. So empty, empty, empty. These can go in the main tank, waiting for someone to pick up. That one's next, but first we'll move these ones. After this segue to our sponsor, me. This week I'm sponsoring my own video again, because all this is going to take an absolute fortune to build and supply and get everything ready for it. So if you are in the market for any aquarium plants, foods, merch, that kind of stuff, check out aquariumadventures.co.uk. I've noticed that I've got an abundance of this stuff, the Sylvania Natans, I think it is. A big old bag, let's go for that, £2.50 if you live in the UK, for the next few days only, otherwise it's going in the bin because I don't have anywhere to keep it. And it blocks the light for any other plants. I can't keep it with my planted tanks, and it will just die off otherwise. So for the next few days, a big old bag. Check out, link in the description, aquariumadventures.co.uk. Thank you very much for your support. Here's a tank I've not shown you in a while. This is my goldfish tank. This is the tank that's in my hallway. It used to be in my Discus tank, but it's pretty cold in here, so it was costing me a fortune to heat this. So we changed it over to a cool water tank. So obviously it's comfortable enough to be a chilled hallway, but it's not freezing cold. But we've got primarily goldfish in here, but we've also got a load of zebra danios, and now we're about to have a load of white cloud mountain minnows. So they're in this bucket up here. They've been in there for 20 minutes, however long it took me to have my lunch. So I topped up the bucket with colder water from this tank, so they should be acclimatised now. It's just a case of releasing them, which I will do as such. So some of them immediately running for the hills or the Java moss. But I think this is going to add a nice flash of colour and activity in this tank. I like the mix of the big fish and the little fish. So you see a lot of movement. Sorry for the glare. This is a bit of a shooting as we go. Let me see if I can turn the lights out. That did not help. But yeah, lots more movement in this tank. Loads of filtration here because it's running on a sump. I like it. I don't think the goldfish will attack them. They're a little bit too big for that. So hopefully we'll be okay. So it might look from this that some progress has been made. We are fish free apart from that tank, but we know that's getting sorted out. I've got this tank set up here just to keep the salvinia going, and a bunch of java moss that we've got down here. So, you know, if you want any of that, click on the links in the description. But what that doesn't show you is I've been at this at most of the day. I have broken 3 fish tanks. I have mildly electrocuted myself. Definitely once. I can't even remember, twice? Possibly twice. I've had 1 light explode. Yeah, it's not going well. Get a fish room, they said. It'll be fine, it'll be fun. And to be fair, this highlights one of the reasons I'm doing this. So rather than having whatever there was there, 8, 9 tanks, there's just going to be 1 tank over here. So never mind 8 or 9 there, another 4 over there. It'll just be 1 big one. And 1 is easier to maintain than 10, no matter how big it is. But yeah, we've had power cuts, we've had random breakages and overflows, we've had shelves give way. 1 tank that I took outside to clean, as soon as I applied any pressure to it whatsoever, the front glass just went psh and snapped. I got all the planted tanks up there, or the plant holding tanks up there, and the bottom just fell out of one of them. Yeah, I've been at this more than a full work day, and that's all I've achieved. So I'm going to have to do the same again tomorrow. But now I'm going to get the remnants of the plants transferred to another tank, get that up there out the way, and then get more tanks to take to the tip, I guess. Right, we're on to day 2 of this now. I got as far as I could yesterday before I gave up after being electrocuted and breaking too many things. So today we've got to finish off getting these plants. My target today is to get rid of this rack. And to do that, in fact I can't do that. My target today was to get rid of this rack, but I'm going to see if I can get rid of some of these plants. So I'll give it a few days, but I want to be able to get rid of the rack. So I need to get rid of some tanks down at the bottom that are holding plants. And this tank full of coolie loaches, which are the most impossible thing in the world to catch, I have decided. But then we'll need to relocate that tank up here with all the other plants, and then I need to put in some power heads or air stones to get some water movement in those tanks. Otherwise it will just go stagnant and everything will die. And then we should be good to go. We'll be in a position to get rid of this rack, if not actually getting rid of it. And if anyone's in Sheffield and they want a rack, best price. Oh no. In the spirit of capturing disasters on camera, I've just had a look in the snakehead tank and the bass tank, and unfortunately down in that corner, I don't know if you can see it, but my bass is dead. It's a bit gutting. Sake. So one of the reasons I'm doing this is so as this tank can get rid of Brian into another tank over there, and then this can be my monster tank. And the one thing I wanted to keep in there was some peacock bass, because I think they're awesome, but all I seem to be able to do is kill them. So that's not great. It doesn't change what we have to do, so may as well crack on. So here's the damage. The fish tank tank graveyard of tanks my clumsy ass broke. Well, I'm not taking the blame for that one. I don't know why that one broke. So I must have just missed something that caused the pressure point and smashed the bottom. That one I didn't actually break. So I'm just decided I'm getting rid of it because I broke it many moons ago and repaired it with a bead of silicone, which has held up for years, to be fair. That one I dropped. That one I attempted to clean and broke. So again, I could repair it. In fact, I wonder if I could repair it with one of the panels off these. I wonder if I can be bothered. Anyway, so they're either going to the dump or going to get fixed. In here, organised chaos. These are the fish tanks that I'm going to keep and find uses for. I've started stacking up some of my WAM boxes, so this is where I keep things like substrate, wood, decorations, whatever it might be. A couple more tanks down here, and then if we go into the fish room, it's empty. So I'll be listing this on Facebook Marketplace just because I hate myself, just to get rid of that, earn some pennies towards the new project, and then make some space. I'm going to just move this tank out of the way for now. I've listed this on the Aquarium Adventures website, so I've listed 3 bags worth, so that's 3 bags worth. So if you want a third of it, buy a bag and I'll send it to you. Be keeping that tank as well, but yeah, so I've made half the space that I need to make. Temporary plant storage over here. Just need to add a couple of power heads or something to get some water movement, and then that's that done. I seem to have unplugged something which has made these 2 tanks go dark. The filters are still running, but the lights aren't working, so I've got that to sort out. But other than that, we seem to be okay. So basically more of the same. Well, hopefully not more of the same. I've electrocuted myself. I wish I'd caught that on camera because everybody loves it when I hurt myself. Lost a couple of lights, lost a couple of fish tanks, lost a fish. Well, I'm really gutted about the fish. But we've made some progress, we've made some space, and I won't bore you with the other half, but it's basically going to be that again. I'll need another couple of days to break down this and find homes for everything, and then we'll have a space where we can start building. So if you want to see that, make sure you click the subscribe button. We all know how great I am at building things, so that'll be fun for you to watch and see that go smooth and flawlessly, as it surely will. But yeah, click that subscribe button. You can join if you want to get more member perks. If not, just say hello in the comments. Friday nights 9 PM UK time, we do a live stream, so you can come along and call me all the names under the sun if you wish. And if not, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Cheery bye. Bye.